I thought I'd be the last person you'd ever let him hurt. If it had been you that he'd beat to a bloody pulp, if he had taken you from this world, I would have done nothing but search the planet for this pathetic pile of evil death-worshipping garbage and send him off to hell.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I'm reviewing Batman 3 Jokers Book 2 from Geoff Johns and Jason Fabok. Now, this isn't quite as good as Book 1 in my opinion, but this is still a very strong comic book. It's really interesting. Obviously, it's kind of a mystery story. We're going to kind of get to the bottom of who are the three Jokers, how are the three Jokers even possible. But really, it's more of a deep exploration, like a deep character exploration, specifically about the effects of trauma, through the history of DC Comics on these three characters: Batman, Red Hood, and Batgirl. And it's really interesting. And Geoff Johns really dives into that very effectively in this issue. But it's crazy. As good as the narration and the story from Geoff Johns, and it's really good. It's not quite perfect, and that's why this is a 4.5-star comic. Highly recommend comic and not a 5-star comic. There's a couple of things I don't quite get as far as characterization and where maybe the story's going. Maybe in the end, it all makes sense. But Jason Fabok's art is really it's amazing. This is we have 100 pages essentially of Batman 3 Jokers, over 100 pages now. That's that's 4 comic book issues. And so this is the best illustrated comic book of 2020 easily. It's not even close. This is one of the best illustrated Batman comics I've ever read in my life. Certainly drawing inspiration from The Killing Joke and other classic Batman stories. Obviously, you see the very last pages. There's the cover image that I'm using on my thumbnail for this one. Very striking image, certainly reminiscent of that cover from The Killing Joke. But it's just the art and all the details all along, just the Easter eggs he's throwing in there. There's a lot of symbolism that Jason Fabok's using that's just really effective. And I'm shocked that it's really the standout piece of this comic book, because Geoff Johns is such a great DC Comics writer. And he certainly proves that here as well. Before I get into all the rest of the detail, I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I definitely want to know your thoughts on Batman 3 Jokers Book 2 in the comments section. Let's get a little debate going. There's a lot of things to interpret within this comic book. Obviously, after the review, let me know what you think. Did I miss something? Did I get things right? And all that good noise. So let's get into this art by Jason Fabok. And I love the way he's using the 9-panel grids. Everything, it's not lifeless. Everything feels very dynamic. Just the level of detail in these panels, it's striking. I'm shocked that he was able to do this. Although we do know he had more time than normal to work on the art. It definitely shows. This is, like I said, one of the best illustrated Batman comics I've ever seen. The best illustrated comic of 2020, in my opinion. And it's just really cool. Like here on the left, this is at the beginning of the story. They're investigating the murder of Judge Walls. They're going there. They know it's associated with the Joker. It turns out they lift a print, and Batman has to go visit Joe Chill. And that's where we kind of get this image on the right. And I don't always, I think we revisit Bruce Wayne's origin too much in Batman comics. The Mask of Zorro, going into Crime Alley, the murder of his parents. Feels like we revisit it a lot for an origin that I think everyone knows pretty much by heart by now. But it's really effective here, because really one of the main things Geoff Johns is doing throughout this comic is the effects of trauma on the characters and revisiting the trauma, in modern times. As they're adults, they probably dealt with it by now, kind of come to grips with these things. And the Joker is forcing these characters to revisit the trauma they've experienced. And just look at the bottom, just the way, really the only thing that changes, obviously, besides the words, is the mouth here, as he's going to confront Joe Chill in jail because of the fingerprint that kind of put him at the scene of this murder that's earlier in the story. And he doesn't have his Batman voice. Is kind of what you can see just by the word bubbles. And he kind of has to grit his teeth. And Jason Fabok just does such a really great job in this comic book specifically, with character, facial expressions, facial emotions. You could almost not have dialogue in a lot of these, and you would know how the character's feeling. Maybe you wouldn't know what they were saying or exactly what their next move was going to be, but you can tell what the character's feeling, what they're experiencing, like emotionally. I think that's really effective. I think that's really separates him from a lot of artists nowadays. There are obviously great artists with facial, conveying emotions through facials, but I think he really takes it to a new level here. And this is like perfect art. This is what you want when you buy a comic book. You spend extra money on your Black Label comic for your Batman 3 Jokers. You want your your $6 or $7 worth. This is what you expect to get, and that's what you're getting here. And that's it's quite an achievement by Jason Fabok. It's really interesting. This is obviously, like I mentioned earlier, this is like a murder, or not a murder. It's a mystery story. Who are the 3 Jokers? Why did he have those? What is he going to do with those chemicals? Is he trying to create more Jokers? And along the way, they visit the murder. Batman has to go and revisit his past when he goes in to see Joe Chill. Red Hood kind of ends up at this pool where he's fighting all these Joker guys. Obviously, Batman and Batgirl end up at the scene as well. They end up having to fight him as well. And then at the end, Bruce is once again having to revisit all these things that have happened, not specifically to him, but to the ones that he loves, his understudies, the people that, the young people that are working for him, that he's trained, certainly has a relationship with. It's, that is definitely what this story, this is a mystery story, but this story is a deep character exploration about the effects of trauma and how these characters are able to deal with re-experiencing the trauma that they've experienced in their life. And you can see Batman, he feels a tremendous amount of guilt. Barbara Gordon wouldn't have been paralyzed in The Killing Joke if her father wasn't associated with Batman. Jason Todd wouldn't have been beaten to death with a crowbar if he wasn't associated with Batman. Well, he was kind of already in the same. He was in the area, but he was in this Robin costume. That's why he took liberties with him. A lot of people have been hurt specifically by the Joker because they are associated with Batman, and you can see it's weighing down on him, and it's kind of changing the way he reacts and things to this. And I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. It's really effective and it's really interesting. Obviously the overall, it's the 3 Jokers. Who are the 3 Jokers? What's their plan? But it's how are these characters dealing with all the trauma they've experienced? And kind of the star of this comic, really, Batman's in it. Obviously, he's doing Batman stuff. He's doing detective work. He comes up on a whole army of Jokers. He's fighting them with Batgirl, and he's doing some detective work at the end. But really, the star of this comic book is Jason Todd. Obviously, in the last issue, it appeared that he killed the Joker that killed him, that took the crowbar to his head and then exploded him in Death in the Family. But he goes, he's investigating by himself. He gets attacked by the army of Jokers in that pool. And the 2 Jokers that are left are there, the comedian, and I believe it's the criminal and the clown. The criminal and the comedian are left, and I believe the clown has been killed. So obviously the criminal is the head guy. He's always got, so far in the comic, he always had this really stoic mannerism about him. But you kind of see here when he's talking to Jason Todd, you see the manic look on his face. He just changes personalities. He's obviously very insane. He tells him, it hurts when I laugh. And you can see the look on Jason Todd's face is kind of taken aback. It's very jarring imagery, really affected by Jason Fabok. Really good dialogue by Geoff Johns as well. It's a really interesting conversation. Eventually, he takes this Red Hood. He draws the Joker smile on it. He puts it over his face, and he's almost hinting at that their plan is to take Jason Todd, give him the toxin, and turn him into the 3rd Joker. So they need a 3rd Joker. They need somebody that hates Batman as much as they do. That's their quest. They're looking for someone who hates Batman. I think Jason Todd might be the one. And then they're kind of needling him, maybe telling him, you're not smart enough to be a Joker. Just really messing with him. And obviously you see the character down there at the bottom. It turns out he did not kill the Joker that killed him in Death in the Family. That is the Joker that did it here. in the bottom. I thought that was a pretty interesting turn. They didn't really delve into it too much in this comic, but I thought that was interesting. And he ends up taking the crowbar back to his head. Like I said, re-experiencing that trauma. Now, we do get some character exploration after the fact, because once Bruce and Batgirl find him in this pool, he's like, "Don't touch me. Are you all right? Am I all right?" And then once again, they had to revisit kind of the confrontation in Batman Under the Red Hood, where it's like, you left me to die. You left me in a grave. You forgot about me, even though, Batman had Jason Todd in his arms. He had his dead body. How would he buried him? How would he ever think that he was alive and had been taken to a Lazarus pit or whatever? And but you can see where Jason's coming from. He feels like he was abandoned and no one cared about what had happened to him, and that's why he put on the red hood, and that kind of became his defense mechanism. He puts on the red hood and he goes and he's going to go kill criminals. Do what Batman wasn't man enough to do or didn't have the guts to do. It's time to go kill the criminals instead of just putting them in Arkham and Blackgate, and constantly having them released or escape. But there's a really emotional moment. Obviously, this leads to the moment where Jason Todd and Barbara Gordon kiss. He's in her apartment. He's resting. He's recuperating. She had left, and he wakes up and he sees all the reminders that she has of when she was paralyzed by the Joker. She's got this calendar. It's all the physical therapy that she had to go through with her dad, and it constantly says, "Dad picking me up for swim therapy." Physical therapy and Dad's birthday dinner. Physical therapy. She's got a book about chronic pain management. Obviously, that's something that Jason Todd has dealt with. So there's somebody, he's seeing someone that went through almost the exact same thing he did, but she came out on the other side relatively healthy, like at least mentally and spiritually. And she was able to kind of recover her life and get back to normal. And he still isn't doing that. He still hasn't fully recovered. He still isn't the same Jason Todd he was before. And you can see it in his eyes there. Just look at it. You can see the pain. And it's an interesting conversation about, Barbara's like, "Yeah, my dad was there for me every day. Everybody was there for me. But, we thought you were dead. Like, we would have been, Bruce would have been there with you every single day if he thought that you were alive. He thought you were, we buried you." So it's like a really good show of contrast between the two characters, and it's really effective. And I like that. This is definitely the highlight of the comic. This is the best part, is the Jason Todd stuff. Like I said, he is the star of this comic for all intents and purposes. There is a bit of characterization that I don't think quite works. And it's more towards the beginning of the story. It's when Barbara kind of confronts Batman with the fact that she witnessed Jason Todd murder Joker. He shot him in the face. His brains are hanging out on the floor. And I would expect Barbara to be kind of like, I remember being paralyzed. I hate the Joker too. I understand why he did it. And I would expect Bruce to take the hard line of, there's a lines we don't cross. We don't kill criminals. We take them in, if we can. But Bruce is kind of like, well, Jason's suffering. How I'll talk to him. I don't know how he's feeling right now. And Barbara's kind of like, we got to take him in. He's a murderer. And it felt like they were twisted around. Like it felt like their reactions were 180 from each other. Whether it felt like maybe Barbara would be more understanding and Bruce would be more the hard line. But maybe it certainly shows a difference in the character. I think this is expressing Bruce realizing the amount of pain that these characters went through because of him, like the emotional and physical torment that they've had to endure just for being associated with him. At least that's kind of the way I interpret it. But the characterization did feel off, but I think it was done with purpose. And hopefully that plays out in the last issue. The last thing I do want to talk about, which I think could be great or bad, obviously, I said, he had to go confront Joe Chill. When he went to his jail cell, it's empty. He finds out he's sick. He's got stage 4 cancer. He's he's in the med ward at Blackgate. And he's in there and, he's like, well, obviously they wanted me to come here. And I believe the reason that Joker wanted him to come there was to have to confront the pain that Batman has gone through, at the hands of Joe Chill killing his parents. have like that's what all these characters do when they're re-experiencing the trauma that they've experienced in their life. The only one that really hasn't yet is Barbara Gordon. I wonder if we're going to see that in the third issue, because that would obviously mean that maybe she'll be paralyzed again, which would be a big departure for the character. Although in continuity, it will kind of line up with Joker War, since we know we're getting Oracle back. But that is neither here nor there. That's another subject. So she's the only one that hasn't really had to re-experience her trauma. Batman's had to do it multiple times. Going to confront Joe Chill. Seeing the emotional turmoil that his students are going through. Jason Todd basically being hammered in the head with a crowbar again, having to go face to face with Batman again after feeling abandoned. So it's really interesting. Although the very last of it, and that's where the picture of Joker with the camcorder comes in, is he kidnaps Joe Chill. He's got the camcorder, and he tells him it's time to confess. Why did you kill Bruce Wayne's parents, Martha and Thomas Wayne? That's so stupid. So this could be cool, or it could be really bad. I'm tired of people changing the origin of Batman, or changing why Joe Chill did this, or was he paid off? So if they go in there and it kind of falls into the original origin, but adds a little something to it, I will think it's good. But if they go and they decided to change the whole thing, and we find out that Joker paid Joe Chill to do it in the beginning, and he's just revisiting that trauma that Joker played on him in the very first place, I don't really like that. There's a lot of the ways that could go wrong, but this is really interesting. Having to go confront Joe Chill once again. He's obviously being recorded. That whatever the message is, I imagine, is going to be played out in the first couple scenes of book 3. But that's gonna do it for my review of Batman 3 Jokers number 2. Like I said, it's an excellent comic book. It is a mystery. It's absolutely a mystery. Batman's doing Batman stuff. He is doing detective work. They're investigating a murder. They're going to scenes. He's looking at old cases to see what he knows about the Joker. So that part is in there. But this is absolutely a character exploration of the effects of trauma on these characters, and what the effects of having to revisit these traumas that happened so long ago. Obviously, in DC time, maybe these happened a few years ago, but in current time, these have been these are decades old stories. These are very old wounds. So. Very effective work on the part of Geoff Johns. I think the characterization's a bit off when Batman and Batgirl are talking about what she witnessed as far as Jason Todd murdering a Joker. We don't get as much of the Joker stuff as we did in the first one. Obviously, it sounds like they want to create a third Joker, but Jason Todd isn't the one. So who is going to be the third Joker? Who hates Batman enough to become that for them to choose him to be a third Joker? I think that's interesting. I don't think it's Joe Chill. Certainly, it could be another character. I don't know who it would be. I imagine it has to be somebody important to Batman to further inflict more trauma on him. This does feel like I don't understand how this is going to end in 3 issues. This doesn't feel like the second act of a 3-act story. Like, this feels like the end of the first act. Kind of. So I don't know how he's going to be able to flesh out that third issue, or maybe it's just going to be bigger than I anticipated. I hope this isn't just a prelude to the 4 Jokers, right? That would be a big disappointment. But I imagine Geoff Johns not doing that. I imagine this is a nice, tight, controlled story. Don't see how it's in continuity, but apparently they say it is. But what do you guys think? Did I miss anything? What are your thoughts on Batman 3 Jokers Book 2? I think this is great. Not quite as good as the first issue, but this is a very, very good comic book. Highly recommend. The art's as good as you're going to find in the comic industry. This is the best illustrated comic book of 2020, bar none, without a doubt. I don't even see Ryan Stegman's King in Black, which I thought his Absolute Carnage was bonkers. I thought that was great. I don't see him topping this. It's good. That would be a very hard bar. I think Greg Capullo's stuff in Dark Knight's Death Metal has been amazing. Hasn't been this good. This is like another level. So excellent comic book. Like I said, tell me what you guys think, and I appreciate you coming by. Should be reviewing Department of Truth tomorrow, and then on Saturday night I should be reviewing Batman the Joker Warzone. So got a couple more reviews coming up. If I read anything that's just amazing, I'll get another impromptu review out there. and we'll see if there's anything bad enough for a worst of the week with Pele. Of course, that would be on Monday. So thanks to all. I'll talk to you later.